feel when I'm talking with you, I don't always come from the truest place. And after it feels like I didn't say or I didn't express what was the...
No, but I don't have expectations of you. You don't have to come from a truest place if it's not what's in your heart at the moment.
No, I mean the sense that I don't express what I really want to express, more like this.
Okay, what do you really want to express?
There's this... there's so many reactions that are happening inside and outside, and in Satsang it feels like there's an understanding that is deepening, and listening to you, it's something it's really feeling inside what you're... And then it's so painful when actually it's not expressed like that in everyday life. It feels like there's a lot of reactions and a lot of identity, and like this understanding is not going deep somehow, deep enough to remain there always, not only when I hear you.
What is most important that you, I put this out for everybody now, I mean, what's most important? That, you know, that you grasp the pointing and you become what the pointing is pointing to, or that you are able to express that in the world?
First one, of course. The first one, of course.
That, you know, like you really understand. Suppose you understand. Suppose you was kind of mute and you can't talk, but you've understood my message. You can't express it in the world. People say, they look at you and say, "Look, this guy is radiant with peace. You know, how do you get the peace?" Does it mean that what do you mean? You didn't get it because you can't speak or you can't express it?
I'm saying there's a lot of ego reactions that are manifesting through me in many moments, and I feel like in that there's this understanding is not alive in me in that moment.
But the ego reactions. I'm just wondering if the ego reactions that happen in us, is it us behaving, or is it that, you know, all the things that we have somehow absorbed consciously or unconsciously, you know, as a result of your satsang also, they're just kind of blowing up. They can't. They maybe at one time we could control them, or we could suppress them or whatever, but now they become much more transparent, and they're coming up, and they're not a pleasant bunch.
Not at all.
No. And you are aware in this then, in such a case, you are aware in this. The controller of them, the boss of them, are you them? Are they you? Are you, because now it seems you're the disappointed one. The role is that you're disappointed in.
I think a part of the ego is kind of watching and judging what's going on and expecting, like pretending to observe. I mean, observing, but observing and judging, not observing. And that's, I think, the ego that started to form more since I started this spiritual path. Let's say observing, but because ego can observe also, but it has become the one that observes, but also judges what observes.
And why does that matter to you so much?
It's just a habit.
Because if you recognize it's actually ego is behaving like that, and before we didn't even know what ego is, you just think it's you, and everybody just say it's you. And if the ego commits a crime, you feel you go to jail. It was the same thing, you know. You take responsibility, you know. It's like, you know, And it's not that you can blame something else, because there cannot be something else operating, against your will totally. There must have been some relationship that gradually these energies begin to take on almost like a life of their own. And at a certain point you find that you're not able to control them. We have to be careful here now, because we seem like we're talking about several entities at a certain point. Like one is, the mind, which was at first just sort of like, well, at first we can say as far back as we can go, we didn't know the difference between our mind and us. We never even used that language, We just said that that's just how it is, and this is how I feel, and I can't change how I am, and this type of thing. But with discovering that there is that thoughts are not what you are, that you can observe them, and they come and go, and you watch their coming and going. So with that gradually becoming more clear for you, you realize that you're not actually the thoughts, but you witness them. However, they seem to occupy an intimate ground which you feel is your space. And then you see you have some collaboration. Who are you in the meantime? This is why self-inquiry is so important, because it keeps on tapping into checking that who are you at the moment, Are you the thoughts, or are you the witness of the thoughts? Are you the person, or are you the witness of the person? Which are you? Because sometimes you're speaking three different languages: the language of your ego mind, the language of your yourself as a presence, and the language of say somehow a deeper seeing. But rarely, but mostly it's either the ego is speaking, and saying when your ego speaks, does it regard you as you? Or does it say I? You say when the ego is talking to you, does it say,
it says
listen,
you?
You. This is interesting, isn't it? So it is actually admitting its duality. Say, what are you going to do about it? Or does it say, what are we going to do about it? Or does it say, what am I going to do about this? You follow? At one time you would not have said that. He would not have referred to you. He's now referring to you because you have separated from him a little bit, but you're not quite home. So he knows he still has some business to do with you. So something in you, the you that have separated, is still vulnerable to the voice of your ego. It's like this golem character, that is 1 minute feeling, this is so wonderful. Oh, no, it isn't. You shouldn't have done that. Oh, yes, but it's like talking to yourself. People say talking to yourself. It doesn't seem clear until you keep thinking about it and look, and you start to feel that there's some space opening up. That clearly you can see that there's a voice behaving here, and there's something that it seems to be talking to, and the thing that it's talking to is kind of waking up to the reality that it and the one talking to it is not the same. So at that stage, you start to have more trouble. Because like your mind is saying, I ain't going. And something you say, no, I don't want to be with you anymore. And you say, I'm not leaving. It's like a bad relationship. And you share the house. The house is in your name, but you have a co-tenant, basically. You say, I ain't leaving. So what to do then in that case? If, say, for instance, you still have an intimate sense of yourself who is troubled by the mind, okay? We are not so far removed from that identity and its play that you can ignore it entirely. He still has the command of your attention. And to that extent, it feels like it has some strong influence or even an energetic hold on you. Isn't it? So that's why you're suffering. You're suffering your mind. The mind is saying, this thing, and maybe before it might have felt like it was better because we didn't used to fight. I didn't even know that I could resist. But now you can resist a certain kind of thoughts. And now the thing you're trying to resist is saying, you're in big trouble because you can't go anywhere without me, and it's going to be singing in your head or something for a bit. So where is left to go? I am saying actually to you that this is part of your you being released. It's like you're in a mega prison, and you keep finding doors open, and you leave that confined space, but you're still inside a bigger space, but you're still confined. And then as you go and you find out more, a door, and you find, whoa, you think you're out, but you're in a bigger space, but you're still confined, and just keep on going, and then one day you find that you're out and there's no more gates. So something is there, like this voice that keep some thoughts coming, and it's not like it's anybody else's thoughts. People come and tell you about their thoughts all the time. It don't trouble you, but because your thoughts are copyrighted for you, you own them. You think, well, it's my mind and it's just my thoughts, and this is part of what strengthens the relationship because you feel that they belong to you still. You created that relationship, and it's you who have to break it. But I'm putting it that this you person, although it still he still has a charge and something there, you have to ultimately transcend this you person, even the one now who is suffering, you are not. You see, these are the different prisons you're escaping out of, but you're still inside the prison of what? The concept of yourself as the one that, is going, even the one who is going to wake up to freedom is still a limitation. You see, because if I say, actually, you have always been the free one. We had a beautiful talk in Lisbon. We had a beautiful talk. You know what the talk is? Actually, it was with her. She's coming now. I had a beautiful talk. Look at that. You see, you saw how amazing. Look how amazing God is and God's grace is. No? I had a talk with her that has been actually very unique because I've not spoken like that before. What I said to her actually, is that because she had a fear that I'm thinning away, and now there's a fear that I'm going to disappear. And there's a fear, it's like death, it's like, what's going to happen to me if I totally go? And I say, actually, that is also one play from your mind as well. He still have you by that string. You're popping all the strings. You're Gulliver, you're popping away all the strings, but that string has got you on this one. Like what will happen if I become finally free, but I disappear, something is very afraid of this. And what I remember saying to you is I said this thing, that you feel that, the way you feel and the person if that vanishes, what is there? Because you don't know for sure what is there, and you may not like it. The one you feel yourself to be. And I said to her, actually, the one you feel yourself to be deeply is the self. The self is what you are. That's what you're experiencing all the time. But it's the self plus the ideas that you have been conditioned to believe is you. But the larger part of your self experiencing is that you are the self. The larger part of you, the biggest part of your awareness self is what you're experiencing every day. If that was not there, there would be nothing here at all, actually. So this is why when you wake up, you don't feel like you've become something else. You just become the most you've ever been. You know what you become? You become the you've always been without the rubbish you have about yourself. The thoughts that we think, like this. Yeah, but why these people keep troubling me and this me? And these people and this fear and this anxiety, the thoughts we have, our conditioning, has been added almost on top of the self. But the self you cannot exist even in ignorance without the self. The larger part of you is just the self. It's not the ignorance. When I say that your fingernail can hide the sun, I mean that the thoughts you're holding on to prevents you from realizing that you're already the self. You believe that those thoughts stop you from being the self, yes? But you already are the self. It's just that you're not aware of it. And it's true that the thoughts, in a way, they seem to stop you. It's not that they stop you, it's that while you're engaged with them, you can't really see where you really are. You are responding from a false sense of self. So the largest part of your experience is you are the self. This is why when I ask you leave this and leave your thoughts and leave this thing and your projections and even your greatest idea about the self and even your desire for enlightenment, you can leave it. And some people actually do. They leave it. And what do they find? That they're still here. And they feel that they're even more here. This is the proof of what I'm telling you. That when you leave all these ideas that you've been holding on to that you think make you you, you find that even when you leave them for a while, I said there's something here that cannot be left, cannot be taken out. What is that? That's you. That's what you are, but it's not the person. The person is the add-on. The person is the app. The person is the all this kind of software program that you have been using, and we just think that out of habit and repetition, that's the machinery that you've been using. But the largest part of that is the self. It doesn't speak. And when you're tired, you go and rest in yourself because you want to stop thinking. When you stop thinking, you feel at peace because you're yourself. It's not that when you wake up, I'm going to just vanish. You are going to be grateful for that vanishing. And that's what I was saying in Lisbon, that when I after this talk with Papaji, and then I went into the town, and then it's like something vanished. And I've been using this expression that something vanished. I vanished, and then people, I don't know how they hear that, because it is true. But then this last few days I've been talking, I think it was with Yuri, or who was it I was talking with, when they were asking about this. And what I actually said for the first time, I says, I couldn't remember myself. I couldn't remember who I am. And that's more probably what's true. I couldn't find the context of the way that I've been remembered, of the way of the person I thought I was. I couldn't remember that person. It was not there. By Master's grace, it was not there. But of course, when I say, but I vanished, who witnessed the vanishing? It's from the self. Now I'm speaking from the self. Without my usual attached projections of myself, I couldn't find that. And that's when actually I could see, like Papaji became the expansive. Because before not, because I was too full, I was already preoccupied, I was already full to the brim of my own projections and ideas about myself. It was still, there was no space. When I was free of them, which is effectively what the invitation helps you to do, is to be free of it. And look, when you are free of those things, that you can answer the highest existential questions you're answering. You know that this cannot not exist. You know it is without form. You know it was uncreated. You know it cannot die. You know it cannot fade. You know that cannot be sick. You know. And for the first time in your life, you can confess this. Things that you think only the angels know. There are things that they say not even the angels know. And how did you know? Where did you go to study? You simply remove the illusion and delusion about you, and what remains is what really is. And everyone, when they recognize this and they experience this, they don't want the other thing back. Why? Because nothing no matter what you achieve in this world with this person life, none of that can compare with this. No matter what you have achieved. In my life, I tried many things, and I was reasonably good with many of them, enjoyed many of them, was even known through quite a few of them. But when I woke up to the truth of what I am, I could never go back to any of those things. None of them compare to what this is. And in some subconscious way, I've been searching for this, but I was not aware it is this. What are you searching for? You're searching to get rid of the seeming presence of what you're not. What you're searching for is to get away from living and believing in the thing you're not. Because the moment you discover it, you come to contentment and peace. You recognize, thank you, I am here. You recognize, thank you. And gratitude comes. And every soul knows this gratitude. Because when you realize it, you realize how long you've been living in the idea of being apart from him.
And the direct experience of it is very much different from the remembering of it, because from the remembering of it only, it's still a little bit distant.
Yes.
But when you
Why is it distant? Because there's the one who remembers it. You become a rememberer of the self, not the self. And there's a gap. What you remember, that you are. You don't remember how you used to be. When you remember, that's what you are. It is remembering and being is one.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
I saw, as I was saying in Satsang, and now listening to you, there's something understanding really deeply what you're saying. And I watch what's happening, because outside of Satsang, the old mind is coming back, and I'm looking why, like what's, and I think what I saw is there's something connecting with doing. The moment I start doing something, there's an identity.
You know what the mistake is? I want to teach you guys about something. Why all this happened? Because you have a concept that you're outside of Satsang. You understand? Your mind is saying, yeah, well, Satsang is finished now. And you're believing that. But Satsang means your life. For you, Satsang is your life. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Satsang is your life. Satsang means to be aware of yourself. Aware of what is true. That's what Satsang means. Satsang is not the man there sitting there from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock. That's not what Satsang. That's the formality. That's the form that Satsang take in its concentrated form when we are actually looking and you're not allowed to be involved in anything else right now. But Satsang continue. That is your Satsang instructions and looking like this. But when you come out, you somehow something keeps cooking. The fire is never turned off. Something is slowly cooking. When I say the fire, I don't mean the burning in your chest. I'm talking about the fire of introspection, the fire that makes you, like when you love someone, even if you don't see them, that fire is still in you. It's like the fire of aliveness. That is still in you. You see? So something is inside. When you finish Satsang, you know, if your mind wants to say, okay, you finish Satsang, it's time to get back to, you know, work or get back to reality or get back to your feelings and all this kind of stuff. Get back to my person almost. You have to watch that. And because then it's almost like the devil know who he's dealing with. And guess who it is? Your person again.
Yes.
You see? But you're never out of Satsang. Satsang means to continually checking in. When you speak, who are you representing your I as, you know? You say, now I went and I see this and then I think that, yeah, this thing happening to me. And I say, who are you speaking with? Because your I has slipped. your eye has slipped back down into personhood again. Why are you so comfortable to speak about personhood? You see. So if you watch that, you'll be able to catch yourself. What a master is the one who catch you all each time and say, why are you speaking like this? And you say, oh, sorry, like what? So again, like when you say I, who are you referring to? Yes, my mind again. Then what makes you feel like you should sit here and talk to me about your mind? No, just in your mind. You can only be with me when you are you. If you're going to come with your mind, then you burden me, and you burden everybody. When you speak from your mind without the consciousness that you are yourself. Because the mind and the person is always needy, always have some time to waste, always talking about foolish things, or excited for it. It's okay, it's fine, because when we're used to that, there's a kind of fun, because there's always love in life, and you're with people that you love and you enjoy and so on. But at the stage where you're at now, where you are sort of like you're in your 9 month of pregnancy, okay? So you whatever you're doing, everything is for the birth right now. You can't be going out playing football. You can't be doing these things now. Now you are, even though your hands and body's moving, inwardly you're just ready for the darshan of your own delivery. You see, so your attention has to changes, and so things which are wasteful of your energy, you just discard them. There's some kind of earnestness and acuteness of attention that comes, and you start to behave that way, and people won't come and bring this kind of nonsense to you anymore, because your energy, even without your words, your energy tell them, no, leave him alone. He's not for you right now. We have to kind of start to develop more of this kind of sensitivity also. Once I tell you what happened, I had a dream one time, and the dream was that I was living in a place, and the beings were very evolved, and people didn't chat or socialize at all. They just worked, And every now and again, when one felt illumined from the God self, they would just they would be ready to speak, and when they're ready to speak, everybody would leave their things and come and sit with them and hear what they had to say, because everything they said was like spiritual nourishment for everyone. And when they were finished, we knew that they're finished, and everybody would go back to their thing. Another time, another one would be illumined, and they'd come up, and everybody would move and be with them, and we'd just be drinking and feeding from each other's presence like that. I had this dream. It was very beautiful. But while we still have the identity of personhood in us, we have a lot of time to spend, in wasteful things. The more you are getting more absorbed in your true nature, those things are not so enticing for you. It's almost as though the ego mind is trying to catch your attention to burn some time, which effectively means to be distracted from yourself. This morning on the way out, we were going out, and I met, and he came to me and he says, "Oh, Guruji, I'm leaving tomorrow, but I've been wondering, because I feel like I'm going home to spend 2 weeks with my family, and I feel like I'm going for compassion reasons, but I'm not sure if it's true, because they're not particularly interested in Satsang or something like that." I don't know if he said those words exactly. And if I'm going there to try and make them happy, they'll only be happy for a little bit and they're gone again. How many times, he actually said it, how many families I've had throughout my lives that I've tried to be happy with, and it's all gone. I don't even remember who they are. How much times I tried to cheer someone up, but it's just disappeared in the wind. Every time like that. So, of course, this time, if I go there to just make them happy temporarily, it's also going to be gone. What is the virtue in that, So I said to him, well, actually, it's okay, it's natural to want goodness for others, but it's better to wish for them whatever it is that will bring them to a higher state of consciousness spiritually, rather than feel good moments and have a nice time with your parents, because some nice times we have is just still for your ego, but if you are praying for them, you're blessing them. When you're with them, you're not just there to do family things only, but you're there like as a monk in your heart. You're still with them, but your interactions with them is only for their spiritual upliftment. You don't have to talk spiritual words, but because your presence is pregnant with presence, whether they are aware of it or not, it's going to somehow be affecting their environment and their lives. You don't have to be too concerned about that. You go with a natural feeling. You're going to see your parents, and if it feels natural, go and be with them, and spend time, and don't be thinking I'm doing them good. Just be yourself with them. But I just loved that he could pick out and say, I don't want to just go there for like sentimental reasons. Because how many times I've done that? Where's the fruit of that? And I was saying to him that sometimes, we love people, but if you do too much for them, you're actually somehow blocking their opportunity to go ahead. Sometimes people have to feel the pain that their minds create. They have to mess up in order to have the aspiration to, Don't play God in it, but God give you wisdom a little bit to see when we overdo things. Sometimes we pamper each other, and it's nice for a little bit, but not all the time. Love has many hands, many ways of expressing itself, but don't just fall into the habit without the wisdom to tell you, look, something guides you that doesn't tell you beforehand. It just tells you in the moment. It's not even if something speak in the moment. It's not even a conversation. You understand? It's not tell your parents this. He's not talking to you like you're a hodder. You just feel to do that, and that's the most subtle language. Is you just feel to do that. That God is speaking. He's not using a you as a conduit. You are one with your own heart, and so it speaks. It moves directly and more spontaneously. You see, it's not arrogance and it's not blasphemy, because you're praying to be in harmony with God. Then you must be experiencing less and less division and separation from God. How do you know that? Because every time you go and search for yourself, you're finding less there. And at some point you maybe become afraid, like, oh my God, if it's going at this rate, I mean, my God, it might just happen that one day I can't find me. Well, actually, where was the you of yesterday? Where is the you from last week? Where is it? It doesn't really exist. It's only in your mind. It's just your thoughts about you. What was that you? Where actually is the you of yesterday? The real you of yesterday is the self that is here today also. He doesn't experience week and weekends. It's just a one continuous. Even to say the self is continuous is actually not complete, because it didn't start to be continuing. It's always just here. It's the only thing here. Everything is traffic. So when we speak like that, I'm actually speaking two things. One is about the movement and one is about the stillness. There's something that's not changing. And nobody gives it value, because once you pick up the ego, you're in the world of changes. And not only are you in the world of changes, you're trying to stabilize or to make the things that you enjoy stop changing. And the things you don't enjoy to move on. It's a very busy work, that one. And the fruits are very, very, you just be eating seeds, not fruit. So there is something in somehow giving attention to whatever points you to that which is not in an evolutionary journey. When you know that, you know all journeys are dreamed. And it's fine, it's not that you're dismissing the world or cynical about. No. It makes it even more beautiful. Because who can see the world with clearer eyes than God, the one who creates it? You know what I mean? The ego is always seeing a distorted picture based upon its own selfishness and its own insecurities and fears and so on. You have to come to the place of zero. Stop. Not a stop moment, just stop. When you know that which is stop, the stop that never was started is just stop. Something sort of stopped. The restlessness in you stopped. The anxiety stopped. The identity crisis is stopped. That energy stopped. And you experience that stop. That's the most important thing. Then everything that moves is moving in front of that. It's not even called stop. In the beginning, because you were in an agitated movement, you experience the stop. But when you keep on somehow confirming that you are that which is not moving, at a certain point, the sense of stop goes. Because it never was running, so you don't have to say stop, you're here. This person feeling of, but my mind is saying this and so on. I ask you, who is he speaking to? Your mind is saying, who is he speaking to? Is the one the mind speaking to, is this one even trustworthy? Is this one stable? The one, if the mind is saying, look, you're never going to do this, You've wasted too much of your life drinking. And your brain is all messed up. You're not going to get it this life. You can say whatever you want to say. Why? Because you identify with it. You identify with that voice. So it's going to hurt you. But if you go beyond this voice to see that this voice is also phenomenal, it's just that for a long time, it had the what you may say, the label of being the star of the movie. It's amazing because the one who made the movie also directed it, and watches it somehow.
Stars in it.
Huh?
And stars in it.
And stars in it. And guess what happened now? From his point of view, actually, everything in the movie is important to the movie. The bad guy is very important because he gives contrast. If you had a movie that's everybody's good guys, I don't think you're not gonna have a blockbuster anyway. You need the contrast, the adventure of duality. And but in this movie, the one acting has to see that he's acting. He can be a brilliant actor, but he sees he's acting. This. Or the vital force is acting, something is acting. This is why I've been checking in with people all the time. I say, are you following? Can you keep with this? Because the minute you can't, I leave it because I ain't got to waste the words. But yet I know that I could not speak unless there was a listener prepared. Because my listening doesn't start from my mind and my person, my speaking. So if the speaking is going, the universe is speaking in here, and it must be the universe that is listening. So on some universal level, because this is not a person-to-person conversation. But when I check in and says, can you relate? And people say, yes, we can. In that moment they say, yes, they can, they heighten their receptiveness.
And you just bring this dimension in us as just you being here, just this just takes over everything. Although it's not, it becomes understanding.
It just
after.
opens up your being,
Yes.
on a conscious level. It's like, you take a full lung of breath, everything becomes, it's like you're functioning and all pistons are going, you're not just running on, on that little small something is able to feel what is consciousness. I don't know. I think I only speak because there's people. Because I only think also, I think, because of interacting about consciousness. You have to see that consciousness is invisible to the human eye, to anybody's eye. It's invisible because it doesn't really have a form. If consciousness could take a form, what it would look like. Can you imagine? If consciousness took form and the form looked like you, what do you think is you? I mean, like you without you. So you without your story and whatever. You are the embodiment of the consciousness. I mean, not the embodiment of your mind. Well, you are the embodiment of the consciousness. And with the use of the mind, but you're not the embodiment of mind. Because what does human being look like? Mostly we look like the embodiment of our mind. You never thought about it. But you look like the embodiment of your thoughts. You can see how we look at each other. And when you go to meet someone, you don't, which is the part you look at? You look at their face, no? Because that's the book. Maybe body language a little bit and so on, but you look at the face or something, it's where that's the most communicative part, in fact, in some way. But every part is communicative to someone who is more open. And the face tells you a little bit of something, how much peace there is in you. Just like when somebody speaks with you, when you're listening to somebody speak, whatever they're telling you, you might think, well, most people think, well, they're speaking the truth, they're telling you the truth. But what are they actually telling you? They're only showing you and telling you what's in their mind. The words of a good person will uplift you, inspire you. The words of a bad-minded person will depress you, make you feel heavy. The words and presence. The words of a sage will help to free you. But we listen to people and think that the thing they say, what they're telling you about is true. But it's not what they tell you about that's true. It's how they talk about the thing. It tells you about them. If they are very whinging and criticizing. But that's not the truth about what they're telling you. They're telling you this is the kind of person you're talking to. Should you believe them? Should you keep company with them? If they make you feel heavy and just miserable and just feel like you want to commit suicide or something, or what's the point of life? Like they keep telling you how bad the world is and how things are just getting worse every day. That's what's in their mind. That's not what is. Nobody knows what is. You cannot know what is. You can only be what is. If you see someone generally who is suffering and so on, be sure their mind and their person's got something to do with it. Can there be anger without person? Yes, it can be, sort of like justifiable anger to do with seeing something being done that is hurting others and is not being addressed. Feeling angry about that, I think is very justified. Feeling about it. More than to feel nothing. Why the people who come into satsang experience so much their mind? Because sometimes people on the street go, people always talk about them, but they're further ahead than you. Because you never think about your mind. In fact, you are your mind. You're living your mind. At least they are questioning their mind, and because they're questioning their mind, they're experiencing the backlash and the resistance that's coming. Why? Because the mind's game is up. He's exposed. He was playing as you for a long time, and you catch him, and now somehow you catch him, and then he's turning against you in a way. And that's an advancement from just cooperating and just being ignorant, just moving along like you are your mind. Then what's the stage on from exposing the mind? And then it feels like, well, but my mind seems stronger than me. Then is that true? Then I have to ask you, who do you take yourself to be? That the mind is stronger than you. Mind cannot live without you. How can he be stronger than you? He feeds on your self-interest. He feeds on your identity. The more you are identified personally, that feeds the mind. He needs feeding. You can exist without this psychological mind, but it cannot exist without you.
It also turns against itself, Babaji, I feel. So then those on the spiritual focus, they start to have problem with their own mind, but it's the mind itself then which turns against itself.
Yes.
So it survives in that way through resistance, and with some interest is just locked in this play of...
When we can see that all of that can be seen, but the anxiety is not in the seer, then you're free from that play. Conversations of this nature should really wash you empty, because somehow that which is not true, is recognized as it's irrelevant. We're giving energy to something. You're giving energy to the untruth and making it appear with a greater sense of reality than it is there. It lives off you. The psychological mind is a parasite that lives off you, who is a little bit a disturbed state of consciousness, a confused kind of form of consciousness. Meaning consciousness is identified with a sense of a person and fluctuates in its expression. So that's why when you can begin to observe without self-interest, already you're cleaning the consciousness. Because the person can only survive being attached to consciousness. If he's not attached to consciousness, he can't survive. Who were you yesterday? I mean, without memory, even memory is not good enough to retrieve anything. Can you imagine without memory at all? You can't even understand the question. And yet we're living as though we are a historical being. because of memory and the play of the intellect like that. But the world, I've been told, I remember kind of like growing up and with this feeling that, if somebody, is well dressed, it means that they're more intelligent or something, or, that they've gotten somewhere in life, and, and that they're more wise than you, or, stupid things, we can't, the nature of the mind is that you can believe the most stupid things and really, really are faithful to it. Because something say, it's not stupid. God made it like that you should believe stupid things for a while until it gets exposed. And when it gets exposed, sometimes we fight to defend our taboos. Something started just as a practical thing. It became sort of like a tradition of a whole village, even. And so
do you find it that it's not helpful? That it's helpful to remember that old self, so you can compare where you are and see how pathetic that old self was. And at what point do you stop remembering?
At a certain point, it's very necessary for you to regularly keep forgetting your old self. Not even as a practice, it just drops by itself. Just like yesterday, if you asked me to run through my day yesterday, it's a big strain for me. Because nothing inside here feels that there's any value to that. To have to try and retrace what I was doing yesterday, for what reason. So some people, however, have a strong feeling that either they have a gift of memory, or they have a belief that it's very, very important to remember things because it might be useful in the future or something. And others feel that they remember things automatically because if it's needed, then God gives it to you to remember. But you cannot go from anything in the past and retrieve it and re-experiencing it as it is, So it's seen in here that, it is not the content of the present that is important for me, but it's the fact that I am always the presence in the present. It's not the content of I did this and then I did that. That type of way of being has become very, very weak. I don't have any interest in that. I always feel that naturally, in some natural, automatic way, the quintessential things that happen, they stay somewhere in the being. And the rest, largely, most of it is not particularly of any value. The value, if you want to use the word value, which is not true, the value is that you're conscious of your consciousness. The story around that, I don't know where the value in that is much. Unless, some things like we are speaking about, that you have observed, and yeah, there's something in that, just to make things clear. But the story, I don't know how much of that is. When I gave this title of the book, Writing on Water, it came from that. That at a certain point, when I really believed in my life as a person, my history was very important. When I became aware of myself as consciousness, my history is not important. You see, when we have a strong idea of our history, of our sense of personhood, your history, your lineage, your family line, all these things were very, very important. When you came to consciousness, it's nothing but important is consciousness. And of course, these things might come up, but I don't have a veneration for them. I don't have wow, this is, my great aunt from so-and-so, and she used to speak, Cantonese. I don't have much of that inside. but I still have the ability to feel sentiment about something a bit, you know. Like if, for instance, the only object I can associate with my father, apart from a picture that I have of his, is an old Chinese teapot that he had. Is the only sort of like physical link that I would say with my father, because I knew that when I was a child also. I know this teapot is a big teapot, all kind of, it's a bit broken as well and repaired, and it's got one of these wire handles and, all the Chinese paintings and stuff on it. And I just gave it to my son, say, yeah, you should have this, it's really, something to come from your grandfather and all this thing,
But it's not the one that.
Is it here?
I look. I have a feeling something.
Because I asked him for it. I said, if you're not using this thing, will you bring it?
I look today.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. That's all I have. Actually. If I even have it, I don't know. Yeah, but I have a great love for my father. Know where that come from. And my mom, the love is what I have. It's not an object. I don't know what it is. An object is like, maybe it is an object inside me. This could be my father's teapot. The only thing I have of my father. My father's great. I think you're right. My gosh! It is my dad's teapot. Look at that. Put the lid. See, I told you it was broken at the front there. Put the lid on it. My God. Don't put it too deep in it. Yeah. I knew that. I said that all I had. I grew up with this.
Oh, nice one, Janiki.
Look at that. Put it on there. This is all I have.